Can I say this?
Sure.
Because this pulls me into a direction I had not planned to speak in, but I want to speak to it because you cannot talk about the transitioning, the deconstructing of one mentality and the transition into another mentality within statesman, churchmanship, without talking about a Bishop J. Delano Ellis II.
Absolutely, absolutely.
He happened to be my father, but because I understood the preliminary hymn before getting to the place where everyone appreciated what he offered and brought to the church. You have to understand the mentality behind who he was.
Right.
And that speaks to what you were just saying. One of the things that was very important to my father was that, number one, that as preachers of the gospel, and I'm talking about of the African American descent, we were not mocked, laughed at, and not taken seriously. We had more liberty as a church, as a body, than other structured bodies did. Mm-hmm. And he would get very offended at how they would call us jungle bunnies and say little things, because remember, he's a silent generation. He was silent generation. And he did not like how we were not respected and valued. And so one of the things that was very important to him is to begin to teach why these things are significant. Now, you can teach it, you can introduce it, but you can't make everybody maintain the integrity of what was taught in that, because some people love the piety of it, the pageantry, the glare, how it brings people to look at you differently. And if there's no change in you, then you're just all dressed up. And what did he preach? And nowhere to go. You're all dressed up and nowhere to go. You're dressed up, you look the part, but you didn't become the part.
Right.
I'm going to say how I know this was absolutely sincere from my father and practiced by him, because I go back to the time where he had one suit and he got a black suit. And it was a nice suit, because he said, I can always change out my shirt and change everything underneath, keep it clean. Don't press it or it'll start looking like shark skin. It'll start, glazing and shining. Or don't get it too cheap, because if the rain hit it, that you got floods on. He used to say all of that stuff, but he lived by that until he could get more than the one suit. Right. But it was to make sure that we looked the part and we took seriously the call. Having said that, as a preacher, as a pastor, as a leader of anything integral that is meant and intended to give God glory and not us,
right,
it is a thankless position.
You know what he used to say?
Thankless. They don't look like they saying thank you, but we hear more of what you didn't say to us than what you did say, because the thankless position is this. Yeah, I'm glad, honey, that message helped me out, but honey, he's still nasty. It was thankless. And people look at you and they don't know, as a preacher, you are wrapped up in human form. That doesn't excuse our mistakes. That doesn't excuse our proclivities. That doesn't excuse those things. But we are set at a higher standard, because, here it is again, the glory was never intended to be ours.
Right.
It was always us saying to God, I will take on this because I need you to get glory. So to come back later and say, well, I didn't get mine, so I'm going to deconstruct all of that and start reteaching it different. You got to ask what spirit entered the church to make us get to that point.
I think
Not that we don't want to thank you here and
Yeah.
there. That will work
Yeah,
sometimes.
but
But I'm just saying.
I think one of the things that, and I know that people will believe that I will be biased towards talking about him, and I should be. Being introduced to the priesthood by him was unbelievable because he stood at the cusp of silent generation, baby boomers.
Yep.
And then he
And
had
then
to deal with
millennials.
he had
He
to
dealt
deal
with
with
the
he had,
millennials.
well he had to deal with the X generation before
Well,
he did
there
it.
you go. Oh, God, I forgot about
So, and most of the time we are forgotten about the X generation.
You are right.
We are forgotten about.
We were X'd out.
And we're the unknown.
We're the unknown.
We're the unknown, and we have been, and a lot of people they
Not
will.
millennials, X generation. You're
We,
right.
we'll
Correct that.
and people will say, oh, everybody feels like that, but it's not the truth.
That's not
the X
true.
generation has been pushed out and pushed aside to jump to people that were really not in position and ready just yet.
Yeah.
And we brought them through without going through process. But one thing I can say about him that I'm going to talk about him much later, and this is, well, not much later, but later, but he actually lived like a priest.
At home.
And
He did.
when I say that, I mean private time, when we're going out somewhere and when we're doing stuff, literally, when I say the mentality of it was, it was a part of who he was.
Yeah.
It doesn't, and you understood that when he was talking about it, it was meant to really bring structure.
Yes.
And he was doing this, and I don't want to get too far into this because I want to.
No, you're right. It
He
goes
was doing
back to
this
what
to
you were
understand
saying, yeah.
that he was trying to build the bridge.
He was trying to build
to-
bridges,
to
not
say,
barriers.
I need you to come over to understand why we are doing this.
Yes.
And a lot of people, they get these things. They go to these places. They go to CM Almay, they go to Renzetti's, they go to Rosenfeld, they go to the different jewelers. They want to go get these clothes, these colors.
They want to look the look.
They want to get ring robes and regalia, and they want to walk
Yes,
out. They want
God.
to walk out and have their hands up with miters on, and they have no idea the process that it takes to do it. They don't understand the priesthood. They don't understand any of that. And what he was trying to get them to understand is that there is meaning to this, and you get the meaning not through just the clothes itself.
Come
it's the
on.
discipline.
It's a discipline.
Before you put on the clothes.
It suggests you're disciplined internally.
Exactly. It shows
Not
what you are.
externally, but
Exactly.
only.
The reason why I have on this is because what I have on shows what's on the inside.
It shows it,
And this
yeah.
goes back to the conversation that most people that we're starting to see today from our tradition, from our modern church, a lot of them, and we're seeing this, where a lot of them have skipped the salvation part, where the salvific part, because they have yet to ask God to save them. They have yet to ask God to
My
come into their
God,
lives.
my God.
Here it is. There are some people who just got a camera and just started preaching because they mocked somebody else.
And they did it well. They sound good
and
doing
they've
it.
never been.
Don't live
They've
it.
never got to the point of going to follow anybody. I don't need no pastor. God called me. I'm hearing God for myself. I don't need anybody. And like Paul said, you're one of the worst ones because you wanted. I just wait for God to talk to me. Wait one moment. Wait one moment. When Paul, and I know I'm going off, but when Paul got knocked off his horse,
Yeah, come
the
on.
first thing he said to him, I need you to go see somebody.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
see somebody.
Right.
Go sit and learn.
That's right.
Go to see Ananias.
That's right.
Go see somebody. And the problem is, most of us, when we get knocked off our horse, that means it's time for us to jump on another horse and
Come
start
on.
riding and
Come
tell everybody,
on.
I've had an experience. But you haven't had the experience that's needed. You said it best. You're the kid. Now you got 2 fish and 5 loaves, and now you want to go preach to 20,000. You can't go preach to 20,000 because you don't know what to do with that. You have to put your gift into
In
the
his
master's
hands.
hands,
That's
and
it.
then he knows what to do with it to multiply. And so I believe that Bishop Ellis was trying to get people to see that and to see the connection in that,
Yeah.
and they didn't. So when we talk about the values of the modern church and their values and stuff, they have the values of authenticity. Let me say this. I did a whole thing in my undergrad work on the emergent church. And when I say to you, it is definitely like the emergent church. When you look at the emergent church, they're not going to have crosses in their church.
No.
They're not going to have. They're going to have stages. They're going to have altars. They're going to have stages. They're more connected to certain types of, certain types of situations.
Styles of
worship.
They're
you will see smoke machines. You'll see a lot of different things in their church, in which there are certain things that gravitate to people that address modernism, and that brings to, like I said, post-modernity, and we understand that. I definitely don't criticize that. What I will say is, as a traditionalist, I always remind myself that because of the cross, because of him getting up, because of him getting on that cross, I remember. It causes me to go back to remember the process of salvation, the process of what was given up for that, not to ignore it, not to walk away from it, because without the shedding of blood, there would be no remission of sins. And if you forget that, you forget about the salvation, you forget about the surrendering, you forget about the sanctification, you forget about the connection, you forget about what he went through. And the only thing you want is the joys of what it costs, but not not the process of what it takes to get there. Here it is. I love it. The innovation, the relevance, and the multimedia, the relational approaches. What I love about the modern church. They make all of us accountable. They tell us, so if we're going to raise this money, where are we going to give it to?
Where's it going? Who gets it?
Are we going to help? Are we helping anybody? Are we going to? There's people down here who are starving. There's a fire over at this. There's children. There are homeless people. There are folk without coats. They cause you to say, we're doing more than just putting a roof on our church. We are helping people. They're saying, if we're gonna do this, let's do it the right way. Yeah. But then there's sometimes when you don't understand the relevance of what this is. You have to remember, as much as we are anything, we're still a church. And if we don't preach the gospel of Jesus Christ, here it is, we failed.
We failed.
We're not a community center.
No.
We do community things.
But we're not a center.
But we're not a community center. We are a church that preach the gospel. And if we don't preach the gospel, and we have to live the gospel. I would say, as Bishop McNair, Ernest McNair, said to me when I was in my first semester, he said to me, he says, you have to learn, we don't have to preach the gospel, you have to do the gospel.
That's it.
You have to do the gospel.
Can I say, I'm sitting here trying not to get emotional because my cries are ugly. I can't make them cute at all.
They gonna have you on the line doing the cries.
Well, I would tell you why. Because you were saying, while you were talking, something resonated. You said, as a traditionalist, and you referred to yourself, and I know it may not look like it. Bishop's a little younger than me. But
I will leave my
I'm emotional right now. We're not going to do this today. You're just a smidge, just a skosh younger. But I hear you saying, I'm not going to laugh, stop. As a traditionalist and so on and so forth. You know what messed me up so bad about it? Just to be honest, I never saw myself as one. As a matter of fact, growing up, everyone that I knew of saw me as a rebel. Saw me as a rebel to what we were being taught. It's not that I didn't respect it or even believe it. I believed it more than they knew I did. But much like our modern generation now, I just needed some answers, because I was raised not with a silver spoon. I didn't have any of that. We were in the ghetto. I lived in Hurt Village, and that was back when it was the third largest crime center in America. So I didn't have all of that. But I had real questions because I really believed in God.
Right.
And I was trying to understand God, not through the lens of what I would see and hear in backgrounds of a lot of reputable people. I was brought up around it. I knew things that a child probably should not have known and experienced and seen. Not probably, shouldn't have.
Right.
But the reason I appeared as a rebel, which is why I can identify in some ways with our modern generation now, is that the one thing I had more respect for than anything was transparency. I realize as I'm older, just a smidge older now, that not everyone can receive it when you're transparent, because not everyone's faith is strong enough to understand it like we had to understand it. So now I get that. But in that time, I did not understand why people would hide with such a powerful gospel. Hide your proclivities rather than saying, I need deliverance. Hide who you were so that those that had problems and struggles can ask, well, how did you get out of it? Because if you got out of it, because you got out of it, there's a chance for me to get out of it. I'm going to say this because I know there are a lot of people, and I won't start naming stuff that people struggle with, because that'll take us into a whole nother conversation. But the one thing I never want people to miss and lose, first of all, you can't expect transparency out of me and I not see you. If we're in a transparent moment, and you tell, especially them people that say they prophets and they prophesy, God is going to do. The one thing God does is if it's a moment of transparency, he shows me you too. And I learned that at a young age. And when they would start talking to me, I start talking what I heard God say. Nobody told me that was prophetic. Nobody told me I had a gift. I mostly heard you talk too much. You got to learn how not to say everything you see. But I wasn't good at hiding. I wasn't good at being false, but I didn't understand how people could not handle certain things. And I'm saying that because there are so many people in the body of Christ. We have to learn how to build bridges and not barriers. We build the barriers because people are afraid. They're afraid to be honest about what they struggle with, what they go through, what they're dealing with, because we teach people how to live a false narrative, and we say because God needs us to do that so that the world can be saved, but I'm in church going to hell? It doesn't make sense to me.
I want to share this with you because this may not go back, this may not be a church thing. This may be a cultural thing.
Okay.
And I'm willing to put this at a level of culture, a cultural issue. Because if you think about this, when we were growing up, what goes on in this house
stays
in this house.
In this house.
So once we start talking from that perspective, and you start looking at those things, I don't think those are situations where you have to consider that as a way of handing some issues to people.
Right.
I don't know if that's the church, is this our culture, not being embarrassed. And so we were taught that from the same people who grew up in the culture saying, hey, don't talk about what goes on. So don't talk about the fact that uncle raped niece or auntie raped nephew or uncle raped nephew. Don't talk about that.
Don't talk about it.
Don't talk about those things that down the street happen, that cousins touch cousins, that brothers and cousins and sisters and
all of that.
all that kind of stuff going on. We didn't talk about that because that was embarrassing. We didn't deal with that. So those things were out there.
Yeah.
I'm not pushing the blame. I'm just saying when you grow up in a culture where that's not projected to be transparent, is always saying, hey, keep this quiet.
Right.
Now we have to deal with the fact that we have people who are now was trained to stay quiet and look good.
They look
saved,
good.
but not come and saying, hey, I got problems. Here it is. I say this. You can be transparent without being naked.
Come on.
I can be transparent. I can show you the ingredients of the sausage without showing you how the sausage is made.
It. Yeah.
The sausage, I don't have to show you how it got made. I can just show you the ingredients. And here it is. I don't have to give you every detail of my life. I can just show you I've come through this. And here it is. If we go back to this Galatians 6:1, which gives us the avenue. It goes back to St. John, 1 John. When he talked, I have an advocate with the Father. And when we start talking about this kind of stuff, it makes a difference. So now we have a situation where we're not talking about compromise.
No.
We're not talking about we're talking about actually building bridges.
Yeah.
And like you said, not barriers. We're talking about building bridges with and so that the younger people can see. Because I think what they're coming into is this all we need to do? Somebody give a good word, jump and shout and raise money, and then we get mad at them because did we deconstruct
too much?
And then they saw our deconstruction and saying, well, I can simplify it even more.
Right.
And we didn't give them the process what it went through.
Water it down.
I think a part of this goes back to when we talked about this last night, and I'm sorry, y'all. I'm gonna tell my age too. When we were growing up, there was a commercial out. I don't remember whether it was a frying oil commercial. I don't remember the name. I don't want to call the name because I don't want to be in trouble. But one of the oil companies that you fry chicken in, the lady was doing Florence Henderson. I can say her name. She was doing the commercial. And at the commercial time, she says, say if something happens in your house, you have to turn off your chicken. She can turn off the chicken frying in the pan, go do what she went to go do, take care of business, come back, turn the frying pan back on, and the chicken started frying again. And it fried perfectly, and it wasn't greasy and everything else. It was still crispy. And we
You
were
don't
like,
need to use lard.
we stop using the lard, use the oil. And so we started realizing, we don't have to we don't have to dip our stuff in this white grease and bring it into it so we can get the oil. And what we didn't realize was the lard transition into the oil was still bad. It was another version of bad oil.
Another version. You better come on.
It was another version of it. It just we went to seed oils and didn't realize that it was another bad oil. It was another bad substance to fry it. And even though you when you looked at it, you says, wow, you can turn your chicken off, even if you're frying it, and go answer the door and deal with something and come back to it, turn your chicken on, and it's not soaked in grease, and wow, this is great. And you end up thinking, what was I thinking of? Now we look at this with high cholesterol and high blood pressure and heart disease and everything else, and we thinking, how did we get here? Well, I can say this. A lot of times when we deconstructed things, we put other things in place that cause problems later on. They just linked it. Here it is. The lard may have gotten us quicker to that point. The oil may have taken us longer, but we still got to the same point we were with the lard.
Got there.
And nobody ever stopped and had the conversation with us concerning this.
And you're right. You're absolutely right. You know, switching off one thing for the other, again, that causes us to circumvent the fact that what we learn as believers of God is not trying to find a quicker way to blessings, not trying to find a faster way to ease ourselves, our emotional dysfunctions. You definitely can't change, the fact that if you have to go through something, you just got to go through it.
Right.
You try to go through it so that the change that's happening to you is not deconstructing you.
Right.
And so the reality is this, and here's one of the bridges, and I'm going to just be honest. This bridge says that no matter what comes, no matter where you are, no matter who you are, no matter what you've gone through, no matter what that transition looked like from lard to oil, no matter what it is, God, Jesus still saves. God can still deliver. Victory still comes through him.
Right.
It does not come through antics.
Right.
Touch a neighbor, high five, turn around, do the hokey pokey, whatever.
Cartwheel.
Yeah. Break dance. It don't come through
Right.
any of those things.
Running Man, yeah.
Yeah, it comes through him.
Right.
And I can hear you preach about it. But if I never get to know him, I will never get to know victory. And I think that's the part that, and I don't talk about, I'm not tearing up a traditional perspective. I just hoped that through the lens of how we experienced it and saw it would help explain for context to a generation that could not understand. I remember our daughter, I don't mean to put you out there right now, I won't say the name, Britt. So I remember when
You see that, right, Britt?
he didn't even have to bring your name out again. Somebody may not have even heard me say it. But I remember when she was very young and we were around the kitchen table as always. And we were talking about things that happen.
By the way, we don't eat every time we at the kitchen table.
No, we just go. That's just their meeting place.
I want to make that say. Yeah,
it's a
we just
meeting
talk
place.
there,
Put your elbows up. Drink a little coffee.
Go ahead.
You open the door. Anyway, we were sitting there and we were talking about different shows that were on and how we as a culture was wrong, rightfully displayed, and how the message made people look at us a certain way. And I started talking about prejudice. I started talking about a slave mentality. I started talking about how racism was so prevalent. And I remember her arguing back from a child that was not raised in the hood like me, but you were raised in good schools. And I look at who you go to school, and I just sat over there and looked over at you, and oh, she was a talker. Oh, she made it sound good. I said, man, they got her good. But I'm talking about it. I said, I remember being in Memphis, and you were talking earlier about the transition from slavery and the period in which we grew up. I remember those signs, colored drinking, and was still out. They hadn't removed them. I remember a lot of the wave of prejudice that was going on. And they said, oh yeah, because, it was a lot going on at that time. But I listened to her, and we said, you don't understand it yet. But I'm not saying that's how it was. It wasn't like that then. I'm saying how it is now. And she began to inform us. Then I watched how, as she went through high school and to college, she came home from college with a whole different spew, because she started seeing it on a different level.
Right.
And we had to remind her, I remember when you said it wasn't no such thing. No, I didn't say it wasn't there. Oh, come on, you did. But I'm saying that because we all have things that we can remember. But there are some things we have to unlearn. And some stuff we got to do. You keep saying the words, but let's lay on it for a minute. You got to be willing to go through the process. There is a process to deliverance. There's a process. We know stuff that used to be overt. We knew when it was subtle, but it was the same stuff. But we still have to learn.
I want to give you, I want to, before we close out, I want to give you a couple, I want to kind of like talk about this in this sense. I had to learn that everything through their eyes wasn't racism.
Right. That's true.
But then I had to learn some stuff still exists.
It did.
I had to back down. It was like if 10 things was racist when I was growing up, at some point I realized that 5 of them were not.
Right.
Because I started growing up, I started realizing that some things are just ignorant, some things is people. And that there are a group of people out here who do not look at race as we do. And there's some people who look at everything as racist. There's some people who do not. I don't look at everything as racist anymore. I understand that.
No, you don't. You really don't.
It has nothing to do with the concept of I guess me trying
prejudice,
to look down. I'll say this. I've always believed, and we can we'll come back for part 2 with this building bridges and not barriers. I think that in our context, and I pray that someone really listens to this, that most of the time we're thinking this racism is about color. It really is about the color of green. It really is about marginalizing people financially. It really is the rich and the poor. Because a lot of the things that we see now is not just happening to a particular color, it's happening to a particular class. And we're going back, if we go back 600-700 years, it was always classism.
Yeah.
And classism matters. And people who were rich wanted to keep their money, and people who were poor always wanted to get into the rich. And people who were rich never wanted the poor to come up.
You're right.
There are certain movies that
got that.
Certain movies and certain things that bring this poor person going to become rich. Are you new money or old money? We watch I don't want to say the show.
Don't say the show.
We watch a show right now that deals with people from certain time period. They don't want people who are poor or servants coming up and becoming rich. Right. They want to keep everybody in their space, and everybody
that secures their place.
Exactly. And then if you lose money, I need to keep my status of who I am. I don't want to lose my status. Status is everything. So I think when we start dealing with this, I think we should start putting in place some things. Building this bridge, we have to start with the reconstruction of the value systems and bringing them together. And I think we're going to be dealing with this in the next Bible studies, in the next conversations with this. And I know we have plenty of time to deal with this, but we're going to be dealing with this for the next several weeks. And I'm excited about what I see, the possibility, because I believe that our generation is in the middle, and we can literally build the bridge. We can begin reconstructing, putting things down, and make it to where the bridge really connects, and they can see it. They can see the connection, because we're not the only ones talking about this.
No,
you and I are not the only ones talking about this. There are other people in our generation, and we've talked to them. Some of them we've even talked to. They're talking about this, and not just about, excuse me, thank you, getting what you want, but we're talking about getting down the next level, getting to the next level of passing the torch to the next generation. When you're in your 50s and close to 60s, you're now the fathers and the mothers of the generation. You're not waiting on anybody else. I get that there's some people who are still out there who consider them, but right now I'm a grandparent.
Yeah.
I'm a grandparent, and when I say I got gray,
Yeah.
I got gray for
Yeah.
real. So I'm not a child.
Grandparent of four and a possible.
Yes, yeah. We got one on the way, and one grandchild on the way, and somebody tried to tell me, "Oh, you young." I said, "I wish I could say I'm young." See, I got a kid, I got a child that I can't say is a child. She's a grown up. My youngest is 29 years old. That's young.
youngest.
That's young.
That's young.
I'm not young no more. I'm past young. I'm past middle age.
I'm not old, but I'm not young.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting older. How about that?
But yes, sir.
I'll say this. And we will go from here. I definitely will concede that there are certain things that we have to let go, that we grew up with, that we did, that was based in tradition and culture that was not biblical.
Was not biblical. That's a great place to start next time.
And we have to really begin to talk about the conversation of what this modern generation is asking us, because if we don't have a biblical answer for them, they're going to start making up things on their own, or they're going to come up with other ideas, and we can't get mad at them when we didn't instruct them the right way.
And thank you again for listening to another week of this very powerful conversation. I pray that it's been blessing you all beyond what we could have ever anticipated. I know that it's a God thing. Can I encourage you today, no matter who you are, where you are, to be a blessing to this ministry, to be a blessing to what God is given to us and our hands have assigned for us to do for the kingdom of God. This offering goes into other homes, communities, countries, and is a blessing. Now, for those of you who do not have a church home, PCC, those of you that are church, are part of the church, let's not forget during the summertime that we still return our tithes, we give our offering. But for those of you that say, I don't have a church home, but I still believe that giving and sowing is right, then can I encourage you to sow here, because this is good ground, this is honest ground, this is good soil, and I believe God, I still believe in reciprocity that comes not from us but from God. So you sow here, I believe that your house is blessed because you are partnering with us in faith to see us winning souls to the kingdom. Just one soul at a time is what we try to reach. And so please, the giving apparatuses are there on your screens. You are able to give through any of those and be a blessing. Let me pray for your blessing and for the hand that reaches out to bless. Father, we thank you for every gift, every giver. We take absolutely nothing for granted. Lord, I pray that you will bless the hands that give, those that are sending it in now, that say, I partner in faith with a ministry that keeps God centered at the nucleus of everything that they do. God, I pray that you will begin to bless them with things that money can't even buy. God, thank you for restoring health. Thank you for restoring life. Thank you for giving us a renewed mind, God, and a new victory, God, that we shall see every day from this day forward, God, because we're partnered in faith with your word. We thank you for hearing us. Thank you for your blessings, and we give you praise in Jesus' name. God bless you, everyone. We love you.